everybody to the monthly Public Safety Committee meeting for the City of San Clemente. I'd like to call everybody to order and for the Pledge of Allegiance. Give me a number.
Call to order.
Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we take name for the minutes? Roll call.
Yeah, let me do roll call here.
Roll call, please.
Yes, Captain Rod Malone,
Here.
Chief Shane Mull,
It's gonna be late.
Captain Jay Christian,
Here.
Chair Nick Bercuda,
Here.
Vice Chair Michael Greenwald,
Here.
Mark Roden,
Here.
Scotland Rover,
Here.
Gary Walsh.
Here.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Next is special orders of business and presentations. Andy Hall is not here for one. Okay, very well.
He'll be here. He's fine.
No problem. All right, I got a special presentation by Resident Surge Leonard, our proposed battery.
You're fine. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Surge is a member of the community from Talega, and I want to welcome you and want to know more about your concerns on this battery plant.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Serge Jeannert. I'm a resident of Talega and also a board member. Wanted to, first of all, thanks again for inviting me. This is something that's been on the horizon now for a couple of weeks. Did initially kind of an open meeting in front of the city council with 3 minutes allotted for that. It was very short to jam almost all the slides in those 3 minutes, but got very close to it. But I think this is definitely the right forum because, as you'll see from what I will present to you, this is definitely a concern in terms of the safety, not only for Talega, but for all the surrounding communities, as well as, I would say, for other considerations through other areas in San Clemente. I wanted to put a quick disclaimer. I am presenting this not as a board member of the Talega HOA, but as an individual resident. And also that all the information that I'm presenting is publicly available. So what is a battery farm, or a BESS as they call it, a battery energy storage system is a more formal name. Basically, it's kind of one of the technologies that right now is getting a lot of attention throughout the nation and internationally for to essentially store and load balance electrical power. You think of it, the power grid, we've benefited tremendously from a lot of people installing solar panels, but that has also caused some challenges for the power companies in making sure to continuously load balance the grid. And what they're trying to accomplish with these BESSes is basically to make that energy available, load balance, but also for the companies that actually put these BESSes in place is basically to buy the energy when the electricity is cheap, so during the daytime when there's a lot of solar and a lot less usage, and basically sell it back to the grid at a much higher price at peak hours in the evening, for example. Unfortunately, what they're not saying is that because these BESSes are essentially installations of huge containers that are jam-packed with lithium-ion batteries. Some of you have Tesla, some of you have e-bikes that have these lithium-ion batteries, you have it in your computers. And unfortunately, in big installations like that, there's been a lot of incidents of what they call thermal runaway fire incidents. And essentially what happens, one of these battery packs heats up, it explodes or it catches fire, and it becomes an uncontrollable situation where up to recently they were basically just recommending to just let it burn out with all the risks associated with that. To date, there's been 68 of these BESS critical failure incidents. There's actually I have in the addendum of the presentation a couple of links that you can click on in the PDF that will highlight where those BESS failures are. And a couple of serious ones. I mean, in Illinois, they basically had to evacuate a whole neighborhood for 3 days, more than 1,000 residents. I mean, it's almost similar to Talega. After I did the presentation to the city council, we had a similar fire here at the Valley Center, east of Temecula. Luckily, they were able to put that one out. But it shows that this is still a technology that's very unpredictable. And even with all the safeguards that a supplier would want to put in place, they can just not guarantee 100% that there's not going to be a significant one of these thermal runaway fire incidents. They also release highly toxic gases, hydrogen fluoride, when inhaled, can be lethal. Right? And so this is one of the reasons why they, if there's an incident like that downwind, but they have to basically evacuate a whole neighborhood until the fire's put out. Nationwide, you can just Google news. There's been petitions all over for communities that say, hey, we don't want this in our backyard. To be honest, I mean, I'm somebody who pride myself to be very green-minded, and I'm even putting forth some proposals in Talega for solar and wind. But this is just one of those technologies that just has not been fully vetted, or it just cannot be assured 100% to operate safely. So the Sandpiper project, what is it? There's a vacant lot behind, and I'll show a picture right behind the, at the end of Pico, literally right behind the apartment buildings, where it's a lot that the Talega had initially assigned the title to be a TCA for the build out of the toll roads. Of course, with the settlement of the toll roads, TCA has kind of settled with this property, and they've been in discussions with several parties about what to do with that land. So this is kind of how this whole thing came to be. Why did they want it there? Because it's easy to connect to the Talega, SDG&E Talega substation right across the street. So at face value, it looks very convenient, it looks logical. But then when you think of having 84 of these inverters and containers sitting, first of all, behind the apartments. I mean, each of these containers does make a significant amount of noise. Each of them has like 2 air conditioning units that are fairly loud. So we multiply that by 80, and that's quite a ruckus. But more than anything else, it's just a fire risk. And of course, this is kind of pushed by Aravon, what used to be called Tenaska, in collaboration, of course, with SDG&E. So this is what kind of a mock-up of what was available online as how they envisioned this looking, kind of on that big flat at the end of Pico. But as you can see, literally behind 2 of the Talega communities, and also downwind from Talega. Upwind from Talega, sorry. when you look at the prevailing wind. So why we should oppose this? Well, first of all, the high risk of uncontrollable cascading thermal runaway. I mean, I grew up in a fire station. My grandfather was fire chief, my brother, and his kids are firemen, so we grew up with a healthy appreciation for fire risk. I'm sure that the captain will be able to make a fair assessment, but we're wondering if Station 59 here is actually equipped to even handle an incident like that, because that would be the closest station. Until now, what they're saying is if there's one of these containers burns up, dig a huge hole with a bulldozer, tip it over into the hole, and wait for the fire to go out. Well, that's not necessarily the best way to deal with a fire. So of course also the risk, the toxic gases, the noise pollution, about 50 dBA per unit right behind the apartments. And I believe that there's options to build these battery farms somewhere else, right, further inland, where there's less fire risk, as well as even the decommissioned Songs facility. What's challenging here is that this is still a fairly unregulated space. There's just guidance documents, and that makes it both on the state and on the federal level a little bit harder to fight. Just recently, the Department of Energy put out technical specifications for the storage as well as for the evaluation of thermal runaway fire risk. These are well-defined documents, but they're not required. I mean, there's no requirement on the state level or on the federal level for any of the installations to literally comply with that or to have inspections. And then just in October, California enacted Senate Bill 38, the California Public Utilities Code, that just requires an emergency response and action plan, which is great. I mean, we would want to have something like that. But our position on this is that if we can avoid it at all costs, this is probably the safer route to go. The insurance factor plays large here because up to only a couple of years, only part of Talega was in the red designated high fire risk zone. You see that red dot, that's my house. So recently, pretty much all of Talega has now been designated, as well as the Talega Business Park, as a high-risk fire zone. So that means that it's going to become increasingly harder both for residents as well as for business owners to get fire insurance or to renew their fire insurance. And I think that's also something, when you think of that whole business community there, that's going to be a major factor. So having a battery farm upwind from that area is just going to compound the problem, basically. So here's a question. I mean, I have all the respect for our firemen, both on base as well as CAL FIRE and OCFA. I've seen them in action a couple of times, and I mean, we just had a fire again on base a couple of weeks ago, a little bit further up from where this installation is being considered. So what I would ask is if you would please consider all the factors before even considering allowing a proposal like that to go through. And that's it. I left a whole bunch of references with links. This has been an education process for myself throughout. But hopefully this provides sufficient material for you to at least get a kind of an educated decision. So that's it. Any questions?
What do you feel drives that organization to want to take up some high rent district for their stuff? What's in it for them?
Well, what's in it for an energy company like this is, well, for one, this is an area right now that is highly subsidized, right? And so to have installations like this, where ultimately, commercially, it makes sense because they can buy the energy during the daytime when it's cheap, and then store it and resell it at night or during peak demand. That's ultimately what it comes down to for a much higher price. So I'm not questioning the legitimacy of the commercial aspects of this or also as a green technology, right? It does make sense. But we are a couple of years away from seeing some major developments in battery storage that is going to be less prone to fire. I'm thinking about solid state batteries and thinking about, gosh, I mean, there's a whole bunch of new developments on the way where that may not even be an issue anymore. But right now, from everything we've seen and all the incidents that we've seen just in the last 2 years, it just doesn't make sense and would put the lake at risk as well as some of the surrounding communities.
Is that land within San Clemente city limits?
Yeah, that's what
Is it zoned for that type of occupancy right now?
It is, that's a good question. That was part of the discussion at the last city council meeting. I think there is no definition of a private utility in the, and correct me if I'm wrong, so in the city code.
There's some land use obstacles that Armonk will have to pass,
Yeah.
including the actual right to actually use that property for that.
I see it.
Yeah, so this particular property is zoned open space. What is allowed in the open space is utilities that serve the open space and adjacent residential neighborhoods. There's no distinction between public and private. However, staff has already determined that this proposal does not meet the finding that it must serve the open space. Utilities that would serve the open space would be those types of utility infrastructure projects that maintain access to the open space, keep it open. This is just a development on open space, and they're trying to operate under the guise of a utility, when really this is closer to a self-storage facility than anything else.
Right. And anything that produces that kind of noise would certainly not fall under,
Yeah.
it would fall under some sort of
came back.
commercial or industrial use, right? I would think.
Yeah, so regardless, the decision of what type of use this is, whether it meets our zoning code, is up to the planning commission. So this type of project would require a site plan permit, conditional use permit, those kinds of things, and that would be decided through that process. But the point of the site plan permit is to determine that this type of development is consistent and harmonious with related development in the area. So that's been staff's position on this so far. The application currently is incomplete. We've responded with some comments. We haven't received a resubmittal on that.
That land was originally going to be for an off-ramp for the toll road, correct?
Yeah.
Construction storage.
Well, the question I think that the Public Safety Committee has is a consideration on the thing is it a public safety nuisance? Is it something that, if it does spontaneously catch on fire, is it easily put out? Any experiences with lithium battery technology on the thing? you know, eventually they'll go out, but is a hazard to the point where we can recommend one way or the other to the city council that consider it or not consider it. I mean, it's what Serge is proposing here is it's a public safety hazard, right? And it would require probably an increase in the fire department's resources.
I mean, I can't speak for how that's being assessed by the OCFA, but you have to assume that not only would it require more resources, but more specialized resources, both in terms of putting out these types of fires, but as well as dealing with the evacuations and also the hazardous gases that get emitted in a fire incident like that.
You know, there'd be specialized training behind that, because that's not what you call putting blue stuff on red stuff and cooling it down. That's part. So.
Just the emissions from that type of fire would. Is there any regulation from the city with regards to how close something like this can be from a playground? Because there's a playground
There's
just on the other
playground,
side of those apartments.
Yeah.
So that's an issue.
So, all right.
One thing I wanted to add, last week, San Juan Capistrano actually voted down a similar proposal for what was supposed to be a much larger battery farm on the land that's owned by Saddleback Church, so right off the freeway there, and essentially for the same concerns. So.
I think at least the practical end of it is that the infrastructure, I don't know if it's in place, but those high power lines, the transmission lines, have to be somewhere connected on the thing. But in that type of a situation, when you're talking about transmission lines for the grid, it could be anywhere. It could be in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no guarantee that the city of San Clemente would get any of the energy that it stores, correct?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the power lines that actually run through Talega were initially intended to supply Riverside and San Bernardino from SONGS. And that's also, so could it be that some of Talega gets provisions through that substation? Potentially, but I wouldn't be able to tell that.
Thank you.
I personally think that one of the best points you brought up is songs. One of the reasons we can't get rid of the lines going across the freeway, which we talked about trying to get out of there, is the fact that it's a major switching station for SDG&E. So, I mean, they got a switching station there, whether they put their battery farm there, because as you say, it is being decommissioned, and there's got to be a good use for that property, because I don't think anybody else is going to build anything on a property where there's nuclear waste sitting.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
Well, that'd be up to the Navy anyway. It's their property,
Yeah,
and
it
they're
is.
turning it back to it. The requirement is to return it back to the original condition. Okay. So anyway, that's great.
Thank
Any
you
other
very much.
questions?
Thank you. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you.
Good job. All right. Okay, next is minutes from the regular meeting on October 24th. You had a chance to look at them?
I'd like to call your attention to page 3, fifth paragraph, motion by Member Roden, seconded by Member Roden. I think somebody else seconded that the motion. Otherwise, I don't see anything
I don't
else.
think Roden seconded his own
No, it's-
motion.
Yeah, that was me.
It's close.
Yeah, Rover seconded that
Yeah.
motion.
Otherwise, I don't see anything else in there.
Good call on that one. Any other corrections that point out, suggestions? Good?
Yep.
Britannia, got that one? Good. All right. Call for the question, all in favor? of
Aye.
approving? Aye?
Right.
Together on it, thank you. With that correction.
Who was the second?
Oh, there's no motion.
Actually, we should have a motion,
To
Yeah,
approve with the
I'll move
change.
to accept the minutes.
and I'll second.
Yeah, it was a.
With the change, yeah.
Good job. Any oral or written communications that we have available? Oh, we got an oral one here. Come on down.
Hi, I came today to talk about a public safety issue, and that's people living and parking in their cars. And where do people park overnight in our neighborhoods and in our communities? And are we tracking and trending that appropriately? Because it is a public safety issue, and I think this is the right committee to address it. And I've been following this for a while, and some questions that I have, and just to start the discussion, and maybe there can be a good discussion today, is who is reporting on the people that are parking overnight and living in their cars? Is OCSD reporting on that? Outreach services, nonprofits, churches? How many tickets are being issued? How many encounters are happening? How many 911 calls are happening? And what are the trends? Are we monitoring that monthly to see what our homeless living in cars, what the number is? Is it increasing? Are there increasing problems with it? So as a public safety committee, how are we tracking and trending it? And how are we gonna effectively deal with the problem that everybody kind of acknowledges is a problem if we don't know what the problem is? Looking at best practices, successful strategies, Jewish Family Services, which does an excellent safe parking program in San Diego. They have like 5 different locations. They've really fine-tuned this. They have an excellent program, policies. Human Affairs Committee invited them to come and speak to them about 2 months ago. They did an excellent presentation. It's on YouTube, so if you haven't seen it or you're not familiar with it, you can go and watch it. After their presentation, Human Affairs Committee decided to take no action because it wasn't in their work plan. They didn't have any, everybody was very enthusiastic and supportive of what Jewish Family Services was bringing to what they would offer to bring to the city. But because it wasn't in their work plan and because Human Affairs Committee didn't want to make any recommendations to City Council, it was just dropped. So it is an excellent program. I don't know how many here today are familiar with it, but you could contact them, or I could contact them and arrange a special presentation if you need to know more about it. There's other programs in other cities that are successful, but Jewish Family Services is the one I'm most familiar with, and they're the most successful. Other cities, including I think Fullerton and Costa Mesa, have had programs, but they've kind of run out of funding for them, and they've kind of dissolved, and then they're back to the same situation of they have people parking in their cars in the neighborhoods, and again, there's no plan, there's no program for that. Let's see. So that's basically it. And I did have a friend who was coming tonight. Her name is Lisa Spinelli. A lot of us in San Clemente know her. She was going to come tonight, but she's busy with the project that she's working on. And she personally knows in the last 2 weeks of 2 seniors who are now living in their cars, and they're asking her, where should we park? Where can we park? And Lisa is part of the Homeless Collaborative. She's a friend, so she calls and says, Where can I tell these ladies, these seniors, where can they park their car overnight? I don't think San Clemente as a city has an answer yet, but I think we need to work towards an answer. And maybe, there's all kinds of programs, and Jewish Family Services did offer to come and partner with the city and have an effective program in San Clemente. But, if maybe the churches could each designate 5 spaces in a church, or there's all kinds of possible solutions, but I think that we need to show leadership as a city with this public safety issue and give direction and work collaboratively with nonprofits, with churches. So that's what I have to say, and I hope we can get a good discussion going on that public safety issue tonight. Thank you.
No, I'm going to apologize. I was supposed to ask you to identify yourself because the people that are taking notes and stuff, they want to make sure they get your name correct.
I asked for the blue card for public comments, but my name is Donna Vidrine.
Thank you.
I'm a San Clemente city resident. I'm a registered nurse, and that's who I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vidrine.
You also brought up a YouTube video. What is it entitled so we can look for it?
It's the Human Affairs Committee. I'll find the date for you, and it's where Jewish Family Services came and did like a 10-minute presentation to that committee. It was about 2 months ago.
Our Human Affairs Committee here. in San
Yes.
Clemente? Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
And Stuart Anderson would be an excellent person to contact. He is on the Human Affairs Committee, and he was the contact with Jewish Family Services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Vidrine, if I
Yes.
could ask you, the Jewish Family Services, what is it exactly they would do towards the folks that are living out of vehicles? So it wasn't really clear to me what they would do for that.
They have a whole program. They know who they're going to let onto their parking spaces. They're assessed by case managers. They have case managers. They knew who is parking in their spots. And what was your question? I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to figure out, you said they're from San Diego.
Their
So, but you would
closest
have them come in
one-
town here? Do they have a facility here in town?
They do not, but they said that they would be willing to come to San Clemente to work with the city or a nonprofit, identify a site, and then go from there, bring their program, their policies, what they have to offer up to our city. But they don't go into a city and identify a site. So we would need to have a site that they could work with the city, maybe with the Public Safety Committee, maybe with code compliance, whatever liaison we would want them to work with. But, so people come in, they park in the spot overnight, it's very monitored, it's assessed by case managers, there's, so they know who's there, there's follow-up with them after they, park in their spot overnight, and they could more than meet our needs. How many spots do we think we would need? Possibly no more than 30, maybe up to 50. So they have the programs and the policies, and they're professionals at this.
Okay, thank you.
Are you familiar with them at all?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other written or oral communications that we have?
I have a question, written or oral. If I was asked to come speak here, does that follow that circumstance?
Why don't you come on up and,
3
Thank
minutes.
you.
I don't know what the issue is here.
Okay, oh, no,
Can you introduce yourself and,
I sure will.
yeah, if you ask a question, we'll try and get an answer.
Okay. My name's Scott O'Donnell. I contacted Chris Duncan a couple of months ago.
Okay.
Wrote him an email, sent him my resume, told him what I do. I said, is there any way I could be of service to the city of San Clemente? Also met with Rick LaFleur. He came into the meeting that I was having with Chris.
Okay.
I oversaw Mission Hospital, Mission Viejo in Laguna Beach for 18 years. Safety, security, risk, which is legal. Emergency management, active shooter expert. I've done many speaking engagements with Orange County Sheriff's Department and Laguna PD. So when I met with Chris, he said, and Rick, they said, would you mind coming here just to introduce yourself and what you may be of service to San Clemente? One of the things Chris Duncan mentioned, he said there was an incident at a middle school where someone had a bulletproof vest on. And there were calls to the community that it was an active shooter. And a lot of residents came to the middle school.
Okay.
He mentioned gender, I won't. But the parents that showed up, quite a few were carrying weapons. So he had a meeting with the entities. They didn't seem to be very happy. He asked me if I would speak with them. I said I have no problem speaking with them. He tried to explain what the middle school lockdown was, what they had in place. And I asked him, is there any way I can meet the individuals that designed it, implement it, just so I can do a walkthrough of it to see if, through my lens, if there's any improvements. So I told him I would speak with the group. My suggestion was I would meet with a big group. They would nominate 10 people. I would meet with the 10 people, go through, because they were feeling that we should be able to get into the building if there's a shooter. We shouldn't be locked out, which is the exact opposite of what it should be locked down. You shouldn't be able to enter. So there are safe rooms. Specifically an active shooter, I've been doing this since 2005. There wasn't any law enforcement that did active shooter drills. There wasn't any hospitals. There wasn't any schools. So it was new in the beginning, wasn't well received. But as time went on, it got to. Orange County Sheriff's Department, when they first approached me, said, this is all wrong, you're not following middle school protocol. I said, what's that? He said, well, everyone runs out of the school. That's not what we do. So what I did back then is I developed safe rooms. There's safe rooms in any type of hospital, any type of building. Everyone knows where the safe room is designated. You get in there and you're in there within 30 seconds. So I wanted to offer my services if needed. He said if I were to come here just to identify myself, and we would go from there to see if that's something that the community is interested in.
Gotcha.
Any questions about that so far? I have a couple of things here. I'm multifaceted.
Well,
Are we on the
3 minutes, yeah.
we're getting close. I think your presence is to say, hey, I'm here, I'm available, I've got all this experience, put me to work.
Yes,
That's what you're,
yes.
okay.
Okay. Just quickly, if I have time, mental health population, or I don't have time?
Yeah, you're,
Okay, I sent them 4 things and they said, go ahead and do it. So, okay,
How
I'm
to
good.
leave his name and contact
yeah.
information?
Yes.
Yeah, we need to.
And resume.
Chris has that, but I can resend that. Who would I if I could have that?
The chair.
Okay.
That's me.
Okay, Chris has all my information, but I can send that to you.
Wonderful, appreciate it. Like that.
Just quickly, I know there was mental health population, OC alert, and I have an in with Orange County Healthcare Agency team about emergency management. I know you guys run 2 drills, but they'd be able to do some training and free stuff to give you. So,
All right. Are you a resident in the community?
pardon me?
Are you a San Clemente resident?
I am not.
Okay,
Laguna Beach.
gotcha. Yeah, they have a
That's fine.
very vibrant program in Laguna Beach.
Yes,
They do.
yes, I know.
I'd love to talk to you more.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Got it. All right, I'm gonna move on. Let's see, we got the Sheriff's Department performance measures. Jay, can you help us out with
Good afternoon.
You got the performance measures in front of you there. So this is Q4, April, May, and June of this year. Here, total number of calls for service, all pretty consistent throughout the months there, varying just slightly, over 2,000 for each month. Similarly, the priority one calls received, the emergency calls that is, roughly consistent across the 3 months. There was a dip in the traffic collision reports in June of 23, down the previous month to 15 from 41 in May. It's quite a dip there. I don't know what would correlate such a reduction, but that's great there. I want to comment on there's a slight caveat here. You're seeing number of Group A crimes. I don't think these numbers actually so what happened was we were in the process of changing the way we report crimes from UCR, the Uniform Crime Report, to NIGRS, which is a National Incident Database Reporting System. So they group crimes differently. The old UCR reporting, you have Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1 having just 8 crimes, with all the rest in Part 2. The NIGRS reporting is much larger. There's 27 or 28 different crime categories with 71 total crimes in that Group A. So I think these numbers, and these weren't inputted by me, I think these numbers are still under the old UCR reporting. So it's not, I don't think it's correct to have it entitled as Group A. It's more like Part 1 under the UCR. So that's what you're looking at there, those numbers. That's later documented as well down the number of incidences and effectiveness as Group A and Group B, but I think they're more consistent to be Part 1 and Part 2 of the old UCR crime reporting, just FYI. Getting into the number of incidences, we had use of forces were minimal, 2, 4, and 3 for that quarter. Number of arrests, you can see pretty consistent across the board there in the 70s, 75, 76, 79. Quite a few parking citations issued. Moving violations, quite a bit more in June as opposed to April and May. Again, you're looking at Part 1 and Part 2 crimes, I believe, from the old UCR reporting. Those are pretty consistent across the board as well. The only real discrepancy I saw was if we go down to effectiveness, the Group A crimes per year reported last year. And I tried to make some sense of this. If you just look at this, it looks like we're crushing crime and we're down, 35, 38, and 55%. There's no way those numbers are correct. I tried pulling up these numbers. It sounds like the previous year crime numbers that's given back to us from the city from what was reported last year. I talked to the gal that used to be employed here as our CPS. Sounds like back last year when they were starting this transition, our system, how we look at the stats was offline. And so I think what they did was pull up CompStat numbers and try to handpick from groups to plug into there. So it looks extremely elevated last year. If I plugged in the Part 1 crimes from our dashboard, which I could see at my computer, I had numbers that were more consistent to this year's April, May, and June 23 numbers. So the reduction was very slight. And it's more like 5%, 6%, and 16% across the board there for those months. So I apologize for that. That's some misinformation that's in this, but hopefully we can get that wrangled up and better suited for a presentation next time. But I'm open for any questions, but you've got the numbers in front of you there.
Burglaries.
Yes, sir.
In this fourth quarter, were they higher or lower than the quarter before?
Burglaries?
Yeah.
I don't know, because they're all lumped together as all Part 1. Burglary is included in Part 1 of the UCR crime reporting.
Yeah.
But to individualize it, I'd have to go and look at those numbers specifically.
Is there an easy way to break this stuff down, what Part 1 or the A group consists of and the numbers behind them, or is that going to be a monumental task?
Well, it's just not what the city's requesting. It looks like they're requesting the group as a whole. I'm sure there's a way to do it if we want to change the format on what the city is requesting, how we report those numbers.
Yeah, because you know, it's just, to me, it's like mud being thrown on the wall.
I agree.
There's no way to separate the good stuff and the other stuff and all that. It just, you know, I'm used to seeing murders and robberies and burglaries and those type of things. So, what kind of instructions do you need to do that? Who-
I would suggest going to the city and asking for a different readout on how they want the stats.
City-
Talking to Lisa today, she said that last year when we were transitioning from UCR to NIBRS, she suggested to the city folks to alter how we do this, and it wasn't well received, and they wanted to stick to this. So I agree with you. Looking at these numbers doesn't really tell us much, but that might be a hurdle that
When
the city was
you
going to
say go to the city, who is the city in your mind?
I don't know who it is from the city, but maybe it's a conversation I could have with the city manager.
Who provides these numbers here?
These come from our CPS that gives it to the city. I believe Lisa Anderson with the city is who documents this and puts it.
But that would not be the person to break it down for us.
No, they would get that from us.
Okay. Because how does the sheriff's office report out generally? If you weren't in a contract city, if you were just reporting this data out to the sheriff's office, how, it's not reported like this, right? It's reported the other way, the more extrapolated way with robberies.
That's a good question. I don't know. That's not in my purview. That comes through our stats department.
Okay.
And that's all through NIBRS now, and it's, you know, there's certified numbers that go to DOJ before it's reported out, so there's quite a lapse in time before they get those numbers out.
Got it.
But it's a great question.
I mean, it's great that these numbers are low, but we just don't know what the numbers mean,
Right.
you know? Thank you.
Sure.
Chief, moving violations, up 50% in June. Was Bruno working overtime, or is this trending up, as you've seen in the first quarter of 24?
You know what, they fluctuate month to month. A lot of it, you know, we have 2 motors here in town. Sometimes they're away on training or they're doing other type activities, so it's hit or miss. I don't know if we can actually make sense of a trend going in either direction. Some months are more, some are less, so. I try to tackle that myself, and I've seen it across the board, so.
I mean, I think it's great because, you know, we're obviously, you know, keeping the speeds down and, you know, getting people to stop when they're supposed to stop. I think that's a good trend. So, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I was curious about some other things, but maybe that comes later.
E-bikes, citations on e-bikes, any work on toward that, targeting that, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, so I know just recently we towed 2 more electric motorcycles last week. The citations, again, they're lumped in together, so to actually parse all that individual information out, there's not an actual keyword that we can just plug in there and get those numbers, so take looking at the narratives of each citation and figuring out which ones are related to e-bikes. But yeah, my guys are out there trying to enforce e-bikes the best they can. It's a tough one. We always have to weigh safety of the individual riders when they try to do these enforcement stops. A lot of times now the kids will take off and we have to balance whether or not we're going to chase these kids and cause an accident when, you know, it is an infraction for these e-bike riders. So it's a challenge.
How about traffic collision reports, you know, with e-bikes?
Again, they're not keyed for a drop down for e-bike related traffic accidents. It would take looking through all the traffic accidents.
Right.
And then parse that information out.
Okay, from your perspective, Alana, have you seen an increase in accidents with e-bikes?
Just off the top of my head, I would say yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a concern that we all have, and other communities too.
Sure.
Like that.
How does somebody go about getting a drop down for e-bikes in the reporting?
Good question. Way above my head. That would be something our statistics does, our reporting. I don't just know if the program or the company they use has that drop down. I'm sure it could probably be added somewhere. But it's a great question. I'll see if I can get an answer for you on that.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'll follow up if you just tell me who to go to
Yeah.
and see if we can do it.
Yeah, it's, we're not unique in that, wanting that information. I'm sure there's
I would
other
agree.
communities that
I would agree.
looking forward to that.
And Mike, did you mean a drop down on the citations or on the collision stuff?
On both.
Well, collision stuff would be how it's reported to Switters, right? There's a key code for bicycles. I don't know, and I doubt that Switters has created an extra key code for
Right.
e-bikes.
Yeah,
So I mean, they could pull bicycles, but
yeah,
we wouldn't know necessarily.
that'd be interesting.
So we'd have to talk to the old state of California to change that. It's their
Well, and it'd also be interesting to see how customizable the reporting platform is. And speaking from my agency, we have a national reporting standard, but then if we want to detail that out even further, we can customize that reporting platform, and we call it a +1 code because the code has one more digit in it, and it's a more granular call type. If you wanted to take a bicycle and make it an e-bike, then it would be a +1 code.
Is that for like when you respond to injury collisions?
Right, for our incident report.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how customizable this reporting platform is, and if they can add these +1 codes to make those drop downs a little more descriptive, right?
They also have to, when they're inputted, they have to indicate it's e-bike too.
Yeah.
You know, other than just bicycle.
Right.
Yeah. Historically, it takes a lot to get Switters to change. I mean, just like when they went to the phone thing, like, were you using a phone when you crashed? Like, that took for years to get out.
Right.
Well,
But the way it's collected locally can be done
Right,
differently.
that's what I'm getting at, is you wouldn't ask the national level to change, you would just ask the local level. You could change it at the local level.
And this might sound naive, but I mean, most people running around, the e-bikes, they're considered more motorcycles. And if there is an accident, are they qualifying it as a bicycle? Or they say, no, bicycles, you know, and, or are they considering it a motor vehicle when they report an accident? So I think that if somebody could come up with an e-bike category, we'd get a lot better reporting.
Would that be up to the reporting officer, correct? Because we all have, as we have discussed numerous times, the pedal-less e-bikes, i.e. the Surons, are motorcycles.
Right.
The ones with pedals, the class.
Just make sure they're all, being reported that way. And so,
Is when I'm not familiar, when they dispo their calls, is there like I don't know how their calls are dispositioned, absent from a report writing scenario? Are there data points that they enter in for those types of calls?
There are, and I don't know what it looks like, to be honest with you, but each call has different disposition boxes that are filled out, so it all depends on who's inputting. I mean, just looking at getting away from bikes, like even a residential burglary,
Yeah.
they gotta go there and dispo what type of structure it was, and sometimes, I just found today, like, whether it's a single-family dwelling as opposed to a residential facility or a commercial burglary, that sort of thing, the end user is ultimately responsible for putting that in. It's not always accurate, right? So,
Sure. It's
yeah. And sometimes some of that's automatically filled by dispatch as well, so stats are one thing, it's just so many platforms to look at to try to make sense of them all. It sometimes gets very confusing trying to make sense of it, you're right.
Well, it doesn't help you guys out that everybody wants data about everything, and
Right.
like many things, the cop on the street is the one that's burdened with, all right, start collecting this
Right.
data too, so, all right.
And for, being a contract city, it's gotta be consistent with the sheriff's department as a whole, right? So if that's not something the department buys off on, that's not something we're seeing as a contract city to be able to do as well, so there's that issue.
Yeah.
One more question to that. On the radio code, when they put out a stop, is the radio code for a bike stop different than a car stop?
I think they use plain language, so it's like that.
Language,
Yeah.
I was wondering if we could track it that way, but like 1195 versus 1191, I don't know what the time code is for that.
Everybody's got a different one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, appreciate it. All right, now we go to marine safety.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Q4 is in front of you, April, May, June. The fourth quarter is our second busiest quarter out of the year. We look at the numbers. Actually, June, the swimmer rescues, if you're looking at just swimmer rescues, that's really low, and that's due to June gloom and poor weather that we had this past June. It's like summer didn't start until July. Typically, there's around close to 500 rescues in June, so those numbers are down. But I don't know if you want me to go through each one of these numbers. They're pretty self-explanatory. If you have questions about the effectiveness, when you look down below, it says percentage of city elementary schools reached through public education. You'll see that April has 40% and May is 40%. Those are the elementary schools that we reach out to, and the other 20% come from March. Year to date, I can tell you for fiscal year 23, we had 2.38 million beach visitors, 1,489 swimmers rescued from distress, 22,030 preventative actions, and over 32,000 reached through public education, and proud to say, no drownings.
There's a stat missing there,
Which one is that?
the one of junior lifeguard program.
Well, this
This particular format doesn't allow you to do that.
Yeah.
Right? But that's a positive for you.
yeah.
What's the numbers on that?
Well, typically we have room for 840 kids.
Right.
We had to decrease our first session because personnel issues. I don't know the exact numbers. I think we were probably about 80 short from each of the sessions, maybe 160 down from that. So maybe 150 less than 840. So around 700 plus. We had.
And that's for the entire 12-month period of time, or is that?
That's for 3 sessions of junior lifeguards.
And and what are the months on those 3 sessions?
June, July, and part of August.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have one full session in June. The second one starts in June, ends in July. Third session starts in July, end of July, and ends in August.
Like I said, it's very positive. It's like the education thing. You know? I mean, that's critical for a beach community like us. Now that we're getting our beaches back.
Yeah.
By the way, when does the sand start?
Yeah, I was going to give that report when you give but I can tell you now. On November 21st, it was last Tuesday, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Mason Construction came in and laid the dredge pipe. And it's on the south side of the pier, probably about 90 feet south of the pier. It goes out past the distance of the pier. It avoids the Wheeler Reef. It's 2.5 feet in diameter. It's steel. They floated it in with 5 barges and tugboats and whatnot. It was quite the operation. So they laid that pipeline, that dredge pipe. They started at 6 in the morning. They were done probably around 2 o'clock. And so if you're looking out on the south side of the pier at a lower tide and even at a medium tide, you'll see it looks like Long Beach because you just see this big pipe coming out of the water. So that area between actually probably another 100 feet south to the pier is closed off. For public safety reasons, obviously. And so that project will probably conclude in February. We got off a couple meetings today. The project mobilization target date is December 11th. And then December 15th is the target date of when they will start pumping sand. The sand comes from offshore of sand will be pushed up on the beach. That's a 12-hour operation from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which will run 46 days straight through the holidays. At night, they'll run lights when it's dark at 5. So they're expecting that to last 2.5 weeks on the south side of the pier. And then as they move, they'll pump the sand, they'll close off a 200-foot section of the beach, and then that water will be closed. And as they move down the beach, that pipe will be extended and continue to get extended down the beach. And every 500 feet, they'll put a ramp so folks can walk over the pipe or for us to drive over the pipe. And then once they get to the southern section of that and they're done, which will just be just around the hole, just south of T Street, then that pipe will be removed and then it'll go underneath the pier, and then they'll start working north, and that'll take 2.5 weeks if conditions, present themselves.
As long as we don't have rain and get wet. Right?
I think they're still going to work during the rain, but I'm not sure that's certain. 251,000 cubic yards of sand.
I don't even know what that would be. It's a lot of yards. A dump truck's 5. 200.
What does this cost?
I have that for you.
Roughly.
Let's see here. Figured that would come up.
I mean, I know how much it costs to have bark delivered to your house. I was just kind of curious what this costs.
The 50-year project is estimated at $255 million. The first year is $14.3 million. Cost, the city pays 35%, $5 million. The city's portion is covered mostly by grants.
There you go. Man has the answers.
That's true.
I like it. Thank you.
Somewhere there's just a big hole that people are getting on the sand.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate the report. Okay. New business. So we have the Public Safety Committee review of the Park Ranger program enhancements. Danielle?
Yeah.
You,
This was something that Trevor did a lot of work on. So, Trevor, you feel comfortable coming up?
Sure, why not?
okay.
Hello, how are you guys doing? I prepared a document for you guys. This document really serves as a to educate you guys on the current Park Ranger program, some thoughts from staff as far as what we can do, what improvements in key areas can be made, and also giving some recommendations on how the Public Safety Committee could evaluate the program and identify best practices in park rangering and give recommendations to the Park Ranger program, but also City Council is how we can enhance this program and grow it so that it's capable of really meeting the needs of the community. So I put a lot of time into this, so I really hope you guys enjoy reading this and looking through this. There's a bunch of key areas, particularly our uniforms, training, the different job duties, staffing levels, the shifts in coverage as a result of those staffing levels, and the vehicles and tools we use, facilities that are available for us to use, different other tools such as software for particularly tracking a lot of data. So we can use data to drive the changes we make. So that's really, off the top of my head, just kind of presenting this to you guys. I also have a few appendices in the back outlining, I know uniforms was a big concern with people. So possible uniforms, current uniforms, I really tried to outline a good summary of our current program and where we stand, and so we can move forward in a really positive direction for the city. And if you guys have any questions for me or Danielle, I'm happy to help you.
We do.
I'm sure you do.
Did you guys get a chance to, I know you probably did, Nick, but did everyone get a chance to review it?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
All it takes is a little nudge.
You're in the driver's seat. Come on by, let us know when you want to start enhancing.
Well, we have a few questions, I think.
I'm Trevor, correct?
Yes.
Are you the one that found these uniforms, the new uniforms?
It's really just a possible.
I like them. I think it's a very good idea. Are you guys allotted a uniform allowance?
We are. It's
It's like
very small.
$240.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like $140. It's not very much.
Because we're still in the process of hiring more rangers, correct?
No, we're
staffed.
fully staffed
Okay.
with what was allotted. So we have 2 full-time rangers and then Trevor as a supervisor and approximately 5 to 6 part-timers that are limited in hours.
There goes that. I was hoping that maybe we could get you guys switched on uniforms before you guys went out and spent your money.
Yeah, it's
It happens.
I think right at the current moment
Yeah.
that might be pushed back a little bit.
There's a huge cost
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
For sure, yeah.
obviously. With staffing, particularly with our part-time staff, we're really tapped out on the amount of coverage we can provide with our current budget for how many people we can have on duty, which really limits the amount of presence we can have in the community. So that's really an area for me that's a big concern.
Well, and then also, we operate 7 days a week and from 4:30 in the morning till 1 a.m. So we're covering a span of 20 hours, which is significant.
I think our job here is not talking about money.
No, I was just curious. Moving, just in looking for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking out for them.
What we're gonna, what I think I'm looking at is a recommendation to the city council through code enforcement and whatever, of what we think it should look like, without focusing, the cost is a city thing, and I'm sure staff will put a number to what we were recommending, but we've got to come up with a recommendation before they can do that.
I think we have to come up with a recommendation, then have them come back to us and say, we can afford it or not, and then we fine tune it from there, and then take it to council. I have several questions about the presentation. On page 2, we're talking about making arrests. In my limited view, I don't think that anybody should make arrests that is not trained in tactics, armed, and knows arrest and control, okay?
Of course.
I've never run into a suspect that willingly just said, hey, put handcuffs on me. So I think that that's a huge area we have to look at. And then going back, receive a little on-the-job training. I don't see that they get a lot of training, period. And when I look at the hours that you're breaking down, the morning shift works 5.5, the afternoon works 9.5, and then the evening works 6.5. I would imagine a half an hour of that is break, right?
Well, it'd be 6 hours for the morning, but a half hour of that is break. So those are the hours that the 5.5 is the hours that they are working. They're the half hour break.
Okay. And then we have people working 10 hours in the
our full-time staff works the majority of the day shift, and they're on a 9-80 schedule. So they're working, their day would be 9.5 hours with a half hour break.
All right,
There is some overlap between the shifts.
And then the current training schedule for park rangers is lacking, and additional training should be needed. And I think that's a real key point. I don't think that anybody should be out wearing a San Clemente uniform that doesn't know CPR, doesn't know how to use an AED, doesn't know bloodborne pathogen, any of this, along with the defensive tactics and the de-escalation. I don't think that people should be on the street unless they're fully trained with this. Because if we have somebody in a San Clemente uniform and someone's having a heart attack and they don't know how to use CPR, I think we're somewhat at risk, okay, having a city employee that cannot help. I can't believe the vehicles aren't equipped with a PA system. That to me is, should have been one of the most logical things to have on it. I like your ATV idea. And again, the equipment on page 7, you don't have tasers, you don't have pepper spray. Again, this all falls back into arrest and control and tactics and whether, how we're gonna treat these park rangers versus armed, sheriffs or armed park rangers. They have in Los Angeles. So,
They have
yeah, but I think we do have some armed park rangers.
For the city of Los
I can
Angeles, yes,
check.
they do. There's a lot of different park ranger programs throughout the state and the nation, and there's all kinds of different versions of the level of work they do. Some are much more enforcement based. Some are much more, it's called ranger friendly, where they're more of a park ambassador. And a lot of these agencies also have different tiers where they have rangers that do enforcement, and then they have rangers that do really the public outreach, leading nature hikes, public engagement. Fire suppression is another thing that a lot of park ranger
Yeah.
agencies do.
And I know the state park rangers are armed, okay?
Yeah,
So,
they're police officers with their
so
agency.
we really need to, we don't want to put anyone in risk, okay? Somebody that, is working for the city, we don't want to put them at risk. And when it gets to page 8, you can see that, we need more training, how to be better aligned with the community. So this was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I mean, you covered all the bases. I was very impressed, but it left a lot of things unanswered. So, I'll throw it to the rest of my colleagues here.
Well, I have a question specifically to piggyback off what you spoke about on page 5 with the, it says here, part-time staff should be eligible to receive PCA 32 training after completing 6 months of employment as a park ranger. But that 6 months of park ranger work, they'll be out there solo by themselves, right? It's not with a training officer.
Yeah, that's, of course, they'll be trained in the beginning, and how we'll do that training with the training officer, kind of yet to be determined. We're still a lot of growing pains here, obviously.
That they would function more kind of in
Yeah.
a monitor, do
Got
the
it.
unlocking the restrooms, the more simple tasks.
Yeah,
and
there's
kind
quite a lot of duties that they can perform just as a park ranger that doesn't have PCA 32 and those capacities. It's right now in their job description, it's not something that's required of them. So they would be, if they were to enforce any city ordinances, it'd be in the same way that our like seasonal lifeguard staff would enforce ordinances, where they're approaching people and, politely requesting that they stop what they're doing. And of course, we need to emphasize the safety for the park ranger. There's a difference between going up to somebody who just has a dog on the beach and is probably going to be compliant versus someone who may be more dangerous depending on what they're doing. But yeah, safety is a huge concern for myself and my staff. I really want to make sure that our people are safe. 2 weeks into me starting this job, we had an incident one night at the community center where a homeless individual became really aggressive with our park ranger when he asked him to leave. So we've had, so our guys are going into parking lots, clearing out parking lots. They're doing a lot of things that, with their current level of training, I consider relatively dangerous. And training would be a great way for us to mitigate those risks.
I guess this question would be more for city staff. Since the job postings did not have a stipulation of requiring 832 or saying, hey, down the road, you must meet this requirement within a certain amount of time.
I want to say that the full-time positions did.
Full-time do.
Okay.
Yeah, for the part-timers, I think it was more of a thing in the past if they showed motivation, dedication that the previous manager would put them through the PC 832 training. The problem was there was so much turnover
Correct, yeah.
that I think we wanted to vet and make sure that this person would stick around for a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit.
But my question lies in the sense that how is the job posting written in terms of, say we have a part-timer, they're doing really well, hey, we're gonna send you 832. No, I'm good, I don't wanna go.
Oh.
That was my question. Because it wasn't listed in the
job.
way the job was required, now, I mean, I don't know, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of somebody that would wanna do that type of job and say, no, I don't want the training, but, you know, there's all walks of life, right?
Let me
So that's
double
kinda
check
curious.
while we're talking. I want to just double check on that
Okay.
position.
Thank you.
You're talking about essential job function.
Correct, yeah, but you know, we've all been through human resource offices before, you know, the way something's written on the front end can really get you on the back end, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and even with 832 training, I still am of the opinion that we shouldn't be having anybody try to arrest somebody that is not armed, okay? Because it can go sideways so fast. And I don't know what the chief thinks about that, but we have 3 levels of reserves in the Los Angeles Police Department. Level 3 is not armed. They don't get to go out of the station, all right? And they will never be out in public until they hit level 2 and they get armed. So, my thought.
Okay, any other questions, suggestions?
No, it's such a great resource for the city, and I am completely supportive of all of their recommendations and requests. They're the group closest to the problem and meeting the mission. And if this is what they're telling us that they need, I'm completely supportive of it. At the same time, with all the training comes an increase in responsibility, and I think that if we are going to be realistic about the longevity of an employee with the city, we're going to have to look at their pay scale also. But that's not for us to, that's not our lane, so.
A couple of things I found here that probably should be included, or, you know, one is DOT vest. Anytime you get in the road and stuff like that, I don't,
it's in there.
They have some reflective materials, but
those are more for inclement weather, but I understand what you're saying.
right.
You know, reflective
It's
vest.
you don't want to be walking around out on the street without a vest on. And
it's not listed in the park ranger position. And so it got a little changed in the classifications with human resources when we went to hire for our full-time.
Okay.
Our full-time rangers are considered senior park rangers, and they had to, I guess, have that distinction between full-time position and a part-time position. But Mark is correct, there was nothing listed that PC 832 was a requirement, so that is not in there. I guess the question I have for the committee is, are you guys planning to come do some ride-alongs, review our documentations in order to make your recommendation? Or how did you guys envision kind of making your assessments of the program?
well, I from my perspective, and I'll grab the ideas as they come in, is we've got to get a grasp on it so we can make a good recommendation to the city council on if we want a successful program, what does that kind of look like, you know? And your suggestion of going to ride-alongs or doing visits on our own, and so it is good, because how else are you going to know for sure what the heck you guys do? You know, it says park rangers, but okay, that's a generic term and all that. So I think we got to look at it real close on the thing. One of the other considerations I have here, and you listed here, is your communications. one of the things I deal with on my work plans here is communications, public safety communications. And a cell phone is okay, but what you gotta really have is tied into the 800 megahertz system, because that's countywide.
Yeah.
And all. And that would be, they have none.
No, we do not have radios.
They have a cell phone.
We use cell phones.
Yeah.
And if you, yes, I'm sure there's spots that you don't have coverage on your cell phone. Thank you very much.
There are a few parts where there is no cell service.
And when you want to yell for help, you can yell, but nobody's going to be listening. And so it's critical if we're going to do a program to give you guys the proper equipment and resources to do that. And I think the communications end of it is critical for you. Okay. So Danielle is asking us, so how do we want to approach this thing? Well, you've pretty well done a lot of staff work on this thing. Okay. But I think you want to get into specifics like colors of uniforms and
All the bells, the whistles.
okay.
And I'm sure they're gonna want some kind of, evaluation report from you guys
Okay.
with your findings, what you recommend.
I think from my perspective, I think taking off a chunk at a time, for example, uniform appearance. That's a key. Here comes, because what we're probably trying to do is to eliminate this private security, which the city is on hook for, not only financially, but if they do something, the city gets sued, if it's for whatever. So if we're gonna get sued, we might as well have our own people do this stuff, okay? But we have to give them the equipment to get it done, right?
Okay. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm still absolutely bewildered that this city finds it safe to send you out there without a radio. And I think that actually should be, before we do anything else, we should figure that out. I mean, where do you start your day every day?
So we're
Here, this building?
Yeah, we start our day here. We have a small office in the code compliance office. It's got 3 workstations. It's packed when we have people coming in and out. Our rangers clock in there. They say they're on duty, where they'll grab, they'll check their emails if there's any updates that came through, communicating something that's changed. Of course, because of the way we have the shift set up, a lot of the rangers kind of pass each other like ships in the night, where they don't actually interact with each other, other than maybe the night shift guys, because most of the nights we do have 2 guys on.
Yeah.
But they are a little staggered. And so then they'll, print out anything they need to print out, such as like park picnic area rentals, so they can either post those rentals for the next day or print out the check sheets to go check out those park rentals, where they'll make sure the person's following the rental permit, and then then we coordinate that with recreation. Then they'll go on patrolling our 23 parks. We have 23 parks that we patrol every day, as well as 2 miles of beach, which we don't really have the capabilities to patrol effectively at the moment, because we don't have 4-wheel drive vehicles that can patrol in the sand. There's also 25.9 miles of hiking trail in the city, which we don't have the capabilities to patrol at all, other than to foot patrol it, which that's quite a task. So those go really unwatched. And of course, I'm somebody who lives in the city and I've hiked those trails. Those trails do get a lot of use. It's not just the beach trail that people use. There's a lot of hiking and walking and mountain biking in the trails, the backcountry trails in the city. So our guys will go patrol, patrolling key areas such as North Beach, T Street, Maxburg Park is an area. Benito Canyon is another park that gets a lot of attention due to some homeless people that like to try and live in the bathrooms there at the Boys and Girls Club. So our guys will go patrol. They're looking for graffiti. They're looking for crimes that are taking place in the parks, interacting with park visitors.
Damage to city
Yeah.
infrastructure.
The reason I asked where you start, I started to cut you off. That wasn't why I asked. I
Sure.
believe in everything I do. I support in everything. The one thing I asked was logistically. I mean, how can we not figure out a way between Marine, police, and fire to like at least get these guys some loaner radios and have them do a 30-minute practicing talking on a shampoo bottle, something that because I mean the fact that we have them out there on trails and stuff like that. I mean, and this is coming from someone who was working the night when a security guard in front of a federal building got shot by somebody that was looking to kill a cop, and you're wearing a uniform, and people. So I have a problem with that, and I think before we do anything, we have to give these guys radios. And I mean, you guys have,
who's going to monitor?
that's what I was saying. If we can get them trained, there's no law that says a civilian can't talk on a police radio. So it's like if we can get some type of incorporated 1 hour of training on what even if they carry the code thing in their pocket, like, oh, I need assistance or plain language, whatever. But it's unbelievable to me that they're out there without a radio.
Here comes an answer right now.
I don't know. Committee Member Roden, I completely share your concern, and I had that concern about 3 years ago when I asked the city to supply our park rangers with such radios. I was told at that time each radio would cost somewhere between $8,000 to $12,000.
That's correct.
And it would take about a year and a half to get the clearances through the county in order for the park rangers to get that technology. At the time, the city management did not give me the go-ahead to pursue that any further. Same questions were asked about bulletproof, stab-proof vests, OC or pepper spray. The PA system on trucks, great idea. However, I was told to operate within the budget that I had for a replacement vehicle, which is why we have one 4x4 truck and one 4x2 truck. Light bars were deemed as the most appropriate or necessary device to be added within that budget because they're required to be on when we drive on the beach trail. There's no requirements for a PA system to be on a vehicle. So my recommendation is you guys are on the right track. I would just make any recommendations that you think are absolutely necessary. Staff will organize all of those recommendations to present to the council, and we'll figure out what the budgeting requirements are for that. Based on the time of when this is being discussed, we're at a really good place because the budget cycle is going to start in a couple of months. And what we prefer to do is present all of these recommendations as a decision package to the council, asking for a specific allocation of funds to make all of these recommended enhancements. The final thing that I will say is, because I'm up here, one of the items that was included in your packet was the community development organizational chart.
Page 20.
That's included because this section of the code compliance division is
Page
getting
20.
a little bit, let's call it non-community development.
Say that again.
So this section of the code compliance division is becoming a little non-community development and a bit more public safety department. And I think that's a really major consideration that the committee should investigate. Is even with all of these enhancements, we're still going to have Trevor, but is Trevor and his team best suited under the code compliance division or a newly created public safety department? If you look at the rest of the community development department, we are dealing with private property development. Planning provides entitlements for those, building issues building permits, code compliance deals with blighted properties and nuisance abatement. And I think at this point there's a very prescient opportunity to ask this question of where do the park rangers really fit? Issues of safety are paramount. Nobody else in the community development department is ever going to need any type of protective devices. So they're really going, if this is the direction we want to go, they're going to be operating in a department that's really unlike anything that they're going to be faced with.
When there was a switch from, we'll call it from, for lack of a better term, ambassador type to ranger, what was the stated purpose, the mission? I mean, what was, there has to be something that somebody, hey, this is what we want. I think that would speak to your.
Yes, so they were, the park rangers were originally park monitors, and they were located in the Beaches, Parks and Recreation Department. The desire at that time was to increase their ability to enforce the municipal code. And at the time, the closest thing to that desire was the code compliance officers, people that could go out. They're unarmed, they generally work alone, and they go out and they deal with things that are municipal code violations, but do not generally rise to the level of a potential altercation.
Like building code violations.
Yeah, that was the general idea. Over time, the enforcement has changed from what it was originally intended to target, which was literally things like unlicensed instructors on tennis courts, people providing tennis instruction without a city business license to do such. And it's turned into more of looking out for those more criminal activities, smoking on the beach, drinking, those types of things. And so, the Community Development Department has done its best to try to navigate those new desires and into that new direction. But it's clear at this point that there's a kind of a larger discussion that needs to be had about the placement of this group. So, just putting that out there, but I do not want you to limit yourselves on any recommendations because of potential costs. Staff will help figure out the best way to make those recommendations to the council and formulate any decision packages necessary to effectuate those changes.
I appreciate that, and like I said, I don't think any of us up here, anybody in this room, wants to send any city employee or county employee or what have you out to do anything that's going to put them. I mean, we're honestly, I think we're setting you up for failure at this point with what's going on right now, and that's not fair to him or his employees.
So the idea is, okay, let's set priorities. What's the top priority? Is it communications? And we agree to that. And get this whole program together. And then you can, have a skeleton of what's the priorities and the high priority and low priority. So even though we don't have to worry about the money, and at least they can say, you got this amount of money available, okay? So how much do all these priorities, and just draw a red line, everything else falls out on the bottom. Without that priority thing, we're not given any guidance, okay? So what we gotta give Danielle is basically a laundry list of what we think is very, very important.
Yeah,
And we can
that would be great.
Yes, and one other consideration is the next Public Safety Committee meeting falls on the city's furlough, which means the City Hall is closed for that week. So unless the committee would like to do a special meeting, which I don't know is actually necessary at this point, one thing that the committee may want to consider is establishing a working group of 2 committee members to do some of this review and work with Danielle over the coming months so that by the January meeting, which would be on the 23rd, that we have some more fleshed out recommendations ready for the entire committee's review and potential approval at that time. So,
We can, I can take you around, copy, you can go out with Trevor, we can make it.
And all
fun.
5 can be involved, just not 3 or more in any specific fashion. But yeah, we can facilitate all of those discussions and ride along.
Yeah.
So as of right now, we will not have a December meeting unless we decide to have one on the 19th.
Special meeting of some sort.
And is it only a special meeting because we're having it at on a different date?
I won't be here either.
That's correct.
Yeah. It'll be kind of a special work meeting to, you know, get our staff report together. So, now we got a program here. All we have to do is figure out who is available and interested in taking that on and going that way, and then we can all take chunks of this thing off too.
Yeah.
All right.
And if, you know, you guys are going through this, we created a couple other documents that if you needed to refer to, just to kind of go, okay, yes, no, decision making, whatever, we're happy to help with, you know, supporting you guys in whatever way we can.
Sure.
Would it be possible to get from you guys a priority, a wish list in priority of what, like I said, radios probably being there at the top and work your way down from there? Because
Yeah.
honestly,
We could do that.
I mean,
Christmas is
I'm
coming.
holding back here, but I can't even believe you guys were sent off like this to go to your job. And then as a question for you is, so you have 2 full-timers and 5 part-timers?
6 part-timers.
So what's the feedback now? Are some people working for like, really, this is our, honestly, what's the answer? Without using names or anything like that.
Sure. I think some of the feedback is particularly regards to pay. Our part-time park rangers, they start at, I believe, 1860 something, 68
Two. Yeah.
or 62, 1862 an hour. I mean, the other day I was in Panda Express and they were starting at 1830. You know, so, and I think my guys do much more
Correct.
work and much more important work than the staff at Panda Express. So, I mean, there's definitely there also is a feeling, especially with our guys that do the mornings, they have a lot of duties that just involve, you know, opening parks and facilities, and, you know, things keep being added to them that they have to do on top of patrolling around and taking care of other issues. You know, a lot of them say, you know, if anything goes wrong, like if there's anything extra other than unlocking everything that they have to do, then the whole day is shot, because it's just them in the morning alone at like 4:30 in the morning dealing with stuff. So it definitely is a feeling of, you know, we're going to do our best. You know, my staff definitely is committed to doing their best for the community. But yeah, the training and the tools available to them like are lacking.
So kind of like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. We know where it's going. We're just gonna, depending on where you're sitting, right?
My guys are really working hard and doing their best with what they have.
And we appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think. Yeah. All right.
We still need a priority list.
Yeah.
From
I
his
just-
perspective.
A priority list from your guys' perspective, and that's the way we'll whittle it down. What you put here is very good, but it gives it to us in a box. And unfortunately, we need it as a ladder, kind of.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, this document was really just to serve as an introduction.
Oh, yeah, it's
as
smart.
where we are and possibilities of where we could go. But yeah, I definitely would invite the community to come see what we do, come right along with us, meet our rangers, see the work that they do, the challenges that they face, and get a really good understanding for us.
We can
and the
talk more in
community
depth
and-
about,
for sure.
you know, all these different things. You'll get more insights for sure.
Okay, I'd like to call for a working a group meeting, but only after we individually look at their program, i.e. ride along, go down and see Danielle's office, and we can individually do that, providing a schedule that won't interrupt your business on the thing too.
You guys are my priority, this park ranger program. We really want to make strides, so
Right.
we will make ourselves available. I just have to say, though, that I will be out of the country starting December 14th. So if we want to meet, I'll make it work from now until then. So let me know when, coordinate with myself and I'll make sure that Trevor's available and we'll do that punch list. Here's our top priorities that we envision as the most important, and then we'll want to collaborate and get your guys' thoughts on the best way to approach some of these things.
And when this Ranger program was expanded or created, whatever term you want to use, did it take away from code enforcement bodies? Or
It kind of muddied some of the water. So there was, I guess, some crossover when we started to have an increase of unhoused individuals and belongings down in North Beach and the surrounding area. It became more important, right, that those issues get addressed, and as well as some other types of occurrences. So code, Adam could speak historically on this better than I. How it's been shared with me is that code kind of took the initiative and worked with the park rangers and kind of showed them how the unattended belongings had to be posted, how stuff needed to be stored, how we enforce some of the municipal code violations with the smoking, the drinking, and such down in North Beach and in the parks.
So prior to this Ranger taking effect, how many field code enforcement personnel were there?
3.
How many are there now?
3.
There's 3, but we've gotten a couple other positions because we've taken on additional duties from other departments. So there's been no net change with code enforcement staff.
But they gave them extra stuff to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Clear as a mic. Got it.
So maybe I can make a recommendation that they give us your ladder. I think that's a great idea. And due to the fact that we can't have a subgroup that hits quorum the board, maybe we can do 2 subgroups and break the ladder in half and work on it, and then come back together and bounce the ideas off that we've already kind of defined as where maybe it should go.
That's a good idea, because then it doesn't task the whole ladder to everyone, but also doesn't violate the quorum issue. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not working on the same project.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
That's important. Okay.
And then we just get all back together and
Yeah, and since we're not meeting in December, an official meeting because it's dark, we can meet early January because, in December it's kind of screwy with holidays and stuff.
we could have 2 meetings in January.
Well, we could have our regular meeting at the end of the month, but a good working meeting to get us together. But in the meantime, we need to work with Danielle to get us an idea of what's going on. We've got to get the priority list together.
Pick some dates and I'll get you guys on the calendar. Both Trevor and I will be there, so you guys let us know and we'll make it work.
Well, my understanding is you put it together, bullet points,
We can do that and have that ready tomorrow.
okay? And then email it to us, okay, because that doesn't violate anything. And then we take a look at it, and Nick can say, Gary and Mike, or Mark and Mike, and then Scott and Gary, whatever. Take them 1, 2, 4, or 5, and then we'll get it back together. And let's try to. To me, I would say let's try to take 2 things to each committee. Okay, the top 2. Yeah. So we don't waste time. Let's really hone in on like communications, wearing uniforms, duties and stuff like that. Does that make sense?
It does.
And then when we do that breakout, do our own thing, then we'll get together in a working committee sometime early with January and say what'd you find out, what's your recommendation, put it together so that we have something that is more concrete that we can give to the city council.
Yeah.
So this is our recommendation based upon all this work we're doing.
Do you know when council's wanting to have this?
No idea.
No idea, but I'll tell you what, I'll know on the 6th.
And I think that with what Adam said, we really need to crunch out at least 4 or 5 solid bullet points to take to the council so that it gets into the budget cycle. Okay, I mean, we can keep improving as we go, but let's get some solid things together to take to the council, and they could go into the budget process, and that'll make it happen a lot sooner than if we, try to do the whole thing.
But I just want to clarify, in the interim, so there's no way to get radios in these guys' hands, these people's hands in the interim? Like, they share a radio and there's batteries and a charger and they hand it off?
I completely agree with the need for communications. My question is, we could hand them a radio. Who are they talking to?
Dispatch.
Which dispatch?
Fire, police, I mean, anybody.
I got it.
Anybody
That's
more
not-
than calling.
Sure, that they could both provide dispatch services
Okay.
for a fee.
If you want a quick rundown of what the radio system is,
Yeah.
back when Orange County went bankrupt, about 30 years ago, the sheriff's department ended up with the radios for everybody, fire, police, tow trucks, everybody. And then they had this 800 megahertz system. The sheriff's department controls that. And in fact, the main dispatch center is called Control One. All right. So these radios are used by every agency, the incorporated police departments and those type of things, but they have availability, so it's a county-wide resource. Interoperability is available because it's the exact same frequency of radios, and it's maintained by the sheriff's department too. Okay, so when you're asking who's on the other end of the thing, it's the sheriff's department or whoever they designate when you say you be on this frequency and somebody is designated to be there.
I know when I dispatched for the sheriff's department up in Northern California, we had our animal control, our railroad, some security, public safety type officers and other entities on a channel. And it was kind of a cooperative agreement thing. So one of the dispatchers would be responsible, depending on the shift, for all the additional entities. I think we had Caltrans? This is taking me back up to my Bay Area days, but there was Mid-Peninsula Rangers, there was a couple different groups, but I think that's something that has to be negotiated, and I don't know about like repeaters I
would think that we can't just add users and workload to the dispatch center without paying for it.
Right.
Well, absolutely, but the idea is that we have to say we need it.
For sure we need it. For sure we need it.
And where they find the money is not our responsibility.
For sure.
Okay.
But handing them a radio tomorrow.
Well,
We have to identify it and then tell the council how much that's going to be and how it's going to work. And I would imagine these radios will have like we have TAC 1, TAC 2, so that they can talk to you or them in between without going through the main control center.
Yeah, simple.
Yeah. So we just call it TAC 1, TAC 2. That's great. And if you leave me your information, I'd love to go on. Maybe not a full day, but I'd like to catch a morning and an afternoon and an evening shift.
Of course,
just to ride for a little while.
Be more than happy to facilitate.
So once you give me, just leave me your information, and I'll definitely follow up.
Yeah, we need
I'd like to do that.
coordinate that. So that's a start, right?
Good job.
Okay, so what we need from you is
We got it.
Is
A
that
punch
priority
list.
list and we're going to schedule a list for all of us. And where do we fit, so that we're not, two of us are not sitting in the same car with him. I mean, it won't fit, I say.
We don't have room for 3 people in one car.
No. So we want to make sure that we're, we got a schedule.
We can't
put together.
Yeah, you can always ride in the bed.
The other thing is, if we, how, this committee hasn't done a working session. How do we arrange that?
What do you mean?
Well, okay, we want to meet as a group, and it's a special work meeting. Okay, it'll be official. It's not one of our regular meetings, because we want to get together before our regular meeting in January, right? Because there's 2 months going by. So I got to get the procedure on how to officially arrange a special work meeting. And the other committees and commissions do it.
I think that the Public Safety Committee did it one time looking through kind of previous documents. I think when you were on the committee, I don't think, like there was like a special meeting, I think, that you guys.
Well, the issue here is, I want to schedule it, but what's the protocol to go through?
So I believe you're just referring to a special meeting, a meeting that occurs at some other time.
Calendar.
So yeah, anytime 3 or more of the committee members want to meet, it needs to be a noticed hearing. However, the notice can just say, working meeting to, discuss park ranger enhancements, and have nothing else on it, and you just sit around talking about that one item for, a couple hours. If you'd like to do one of those, we just need to establish a special meeting. It requires a quorum to sign off on it, and then we just provide 72 hours notice.
Okay, but who facilitates it?
City staff will.
Yourself?
Natanya and Danielle will.
Okay.
So if they wanted to do the meeting, but let's say kind of do part of it out in the field, right? Like, could they do that as like?
Since I would say you technically need to notice everywhere that the meeting is being held.
Yeah.
If we're going out in the field, it's very unlikely that a quorum will remain. And say, let's do 2x2s or one-on-ones kind of things after that type of meeting, and just consider the meeting ended at that point.
Or it has to be open to the public, and I think a special meeting by the Brown Act can be a 24-hour notice.
But that's an emergency thing.
Yeah, that's for urgent matters.
Yeah.
72 hours is.
I think this is an urgent matter.
Yeah. Well, we would just to provide as much notice as possible.
Right.
72 hours would be our preferred, but you're correct. A 24-hour meeting could be established.
But I think the workaround and to be in compliance is to do the 2x2, right?
Yeah.
Like assign who's doing what,
Right.
and you can either do that after the priority list, or however you want to do it. But then you can still get things done and move along in the process without having to do that special meeting.
Well, I was thinking special meetings, get this stuff done and then meet and do our planning on the thing so that we're all talking the same way. We hash out the priorities properly and things. And then at the regular meeting, then we can make our agree to an official recommendation if we don't do it on that special meeting.
Well, just due to the timing and to avoid Brown Act implications, I'd recommend that if a special meeting is desired, and I can see it being desired if, even with working groups, the entire committee wants to discuss this as a group before the January 23rd meeting, that we basically identify a special meeting opportunity at today's meeting because it's done openly, and then staff can follow up individually to make sure that as that date approaches, that one-on-one, it's still, people are still available.
When does city staff come back after the furlough?
January 2nd.
Second,
Is that too soon?
I won't be back. Vacation through the first week of January.
Yeah.
The 9th would give us 2 weeks before the regularly scheduled meeting.
The 9th would work.
Yeah, Adam, also, could we ask you or the staff to do a quick research and find out what would be involved in getting the person on the other end? Okay?
Getting which
In other words, finding out how we have to set up to have the radios connect to a call center.
That information is, I'm more than happy to look into it. I worked with our IT department the last time I was trying to get this going. And it's really their research. So I can talk with city staff, see what we can put together, and I'll provide you whatever.
I mean, I'd like to know, just so that we know, when we present this to the council, okay, this is well worth the money we're gonna spend. Okay?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably something out there about even the Orange County's 800 megahertz system and what I'll call it the application process is to get onto that.
Wouldn't you know, Jay, too, like some contacts that the guys could?
I'll make some phone calls as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Pete Jimenez is my contact up there. He specializes in that communication. So,
If we do a special meeting, it doesn't have to be on a Tuesday, right?
No.
yeah.
Week of I'm good week of the 8th, except for January 9th.
Yeah, I'm not good on the
Is that gonna be
night.
the 11th? Thursday?
It works for me. Sure.
That works. Yeah,
What are we looking at?
11th of January.
What, is 3 o'clock still good for you guys, or you'd rather do it later?
Or,
Whatever works for everybody.
yeah, or we can meet earlier.
I go to my office, but, I'll just, whatever. I mean, 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock is better for me, but whatever you guys do, I'll make it work.
All right, let's do
This is important.
3 o'clock, is fine.
All right, I make a motion that we have a meeting on January 11th, 2024 at 3 p.m.
I second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Let's do it. Okay, January 11th.
Public safety meeting.
Thank you,
$200.
65 days. I don't have to go to the office.
Okay. All right, good there. Good
Yeah.
Thank
on
you.
that issue.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor, for bringing that all to our attention.
Great.
And Adam, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All right, now, we got some unfinished business here to take care of. Mark, looks like your project here that you worked on
Yeah.
the gun safety stuff. Give me your opinion on this false demand for action thing.
So I did some research on, because the way it was presented to us last month was that this was a local moms group that was anonymous or what have you. Turns out that's actually not the case. This Moms Demand Action is a advocacy group associated with mayors for gun control, and then another entity called Everyday Gun Violence with Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York, and also that. It's not a bunch of, and then after knowing that, rereading what was given to us, it made sense why it was very generic and poorly worded, because and I've done a little more research, it sounds like they send these like the gunshot effect, they just send them out to everybody and hoping to get people to bite on it. So one of my issues with it because I was worried we were going to vote on it and it was going to pass, it was very restrictive for people that are fully trained to have loaded firearms or what have you stored in their home, and that's the last thing we wanted. As a city of San Clemente, we shouldn't be in the business of criminalizing. I mean, obviously the Second Amendment is a big issue in this country and a huge issue in this city, as we all know. So my mindset was this was not a good policy that was proffered up to us, if we are going to have a code, which I'm going to go on the record and say I don't think we should have one, but if we are going to have one, it needed to be a little more lenient in terms of safely storing loaded weapons. So if you look at item, they're not numbered, so yellow item. So I wrote the safe firearms storage ordinance. So the definitions for firearm, locked container, locking device, a loaded firearm are all directly pulled from the California Penal Code. So it shall be an offense for a person to store or keep any firearm on any premise unless the firearm is unloaded and in a locked container, or unloaded and affixed with a locking device, or carried on the person or otherwise in immediate possession of a person in accordance with all applicable laws. I also submitted, if you look at the next page, it's the California Penal Code sections 25-100 through 25-140 inclusive. So the state of California already has laws in place with regard to storage of firearms. Pretty much the divergence would be on any city ordinance is that it would now apply to people. Let me backtrack that. The way the state law is written, obviously felons can't have guns, you can't have a gun in your house if you know a parolee is going to be living with you, all that stuff. But more to the point is about access to minors, whether known access, perceived access, or potential access, right? So if you have great grandchildren that only come to your house once a year, you have to know, well, they're going to be here that once a year. You need to make sure they're locked up. That's not your excuse to just leave a gun out on the table. Aside from that, with relation to minors, all this would do is make it apply to all of them. So the caveats to what I had just read in subsection B, it would not apply to a loaded firearm stored in a locked container that is immovable due to being attached to a premise to the extent its removal would require mechanical intervention to detach from the premise, i.e. a wall safe or floor safe, or a loaded firearm stored in a locked container that is immovable without mechanical intervention, e.g. hydraulic lift, crane, dolly, etc., due to the size and weight. So this would be like a gun safe. And then, or the firearm stored or kept on premises owned or under the control of law enforcement, and then a firearm stored or kept on the premise of a federally licensed firearms dealer. They had a generic $1,000 fine on there. I said, if we're going to do this, first time $750, subsequent violations are $2,000. And then I thought this next part was very important with regards to infringing on people's rights, was no portion of this ordinance, in part or in whole, grants law enforcement the authority to conduct an investigation solely to determine compliance with this ordinance. That was nowhere to be seen in that one. That was proffered up to us. So the last thing we need to do is be creating something that's codified that's going to give somebody the right to go ask questions, knock on your door, how you doing this, what are you doing that? And I could just see the implications with regards to child custody issues and stuff like that. We don't want to put bait out there for somebody to use. And then no portion of this ordinance in part or in whole negates the requirements to abide by California Penal Code sections 25-100 to 25-140 inclusive. So that's where we're at on that. Again, I feel this is, not just because I wrote it, if any one of us had written it, I would say this is much better than what was proffered up last month. But I will say I don't think this should be in the city's purview, but if we are going to do it, it needs to be written something like this.
Well, here's the thing, if we make a recommendation like that, is it our responsibility to run it by the city attorney to see if it's legal, enforceable, or regulation, even though it's state law? I don't know what the answer is there.
It's my opinion that the original document was brought to us for us to say yes or no to the city council that this should or should not, go forward. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And I think that we already made that decision. We just haven't. The document in its current, in its form, is not acceptable to us. And that's where we stand. We don't have to give them another document, all right? They asked, is this good? And we said, we don't think it is. I know Mark and I don't think it is. So
But they're gonna wanna know why. I don't think they just wanna know.
So how do you want to word it? We just think that the verbiage is,
Is it too restrictive or not restrictive enough, or?
I think it's delving the city into something the city doesn't need to start delving into, to be honest with you.
Because it's covered by state.
Well, it's covered by state law, other than, it's, the main thing is to protect kids, right? And you can't have felons, and there's so much of that. The only thing this adds to is makes it more restrictive on how people who aren't ever gonna come into, say a 7-year-old bachelor with no relatives just living his life.
Mhm.
Well, now we're dictating to him how he's gonna store his guns. When there's there's 3 pages of California Penal Code. The state legislature has figured it out for us.
Yeah.
So now we're, as a city, we're gonna dictate to that guy what he's gonna do with his gun.
Okay.
so we say that we think that,
Let me throw something out
okay,
here.
but
What is the problem we're trying to solve? So I asked Jay, I says, well, how many, let's try burglaries with guns. And how about loaded guns or whatever? Jay came back with, in the last year, it was like 5.
Loaded or unloaded or total?
Yeah.
5 total that were
Yeah.
stolen.
Yeah, but however, there was like 13 in the last month or something. 13 guns stolen.
There was 14 guns stolen in one incident
I was gonna
just
say,
recently.
So
Reported.
but yeah, see, that's the other one is how many guns are stolen or not reported.
But and also the way that ordinance that was given to us
Yeah.
wouldn't have changed any of that. It only would have. The only thing it would have changed is that the person couldn't have stolen it and used it right then. That's the only thing that would change.
Like because
The
it's
immediate
loaded.
use, yeah.
Right, then you'd have to throw the magazine.
And there's
out.
no indication that anything like that's even going on.
so what if we just go back to the city council and say, we don't think that we need to go any farther than the current California law stipulates. And
We recommend that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's unnecessary based on current trends and
Well, yeah.
state law.
and current state law. So that's my motion.
All right.
Well, I think. Start.
Second.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're making a motion.
You're making.
Yeah.
I seconded
He has to say the motion.
Who's the motion?
it. He seconded
You just said it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we do not adopt any policy or code that relates to what was presented to us in the October meeting, and that we rely on current state law.
I could have said it better. So I seconded
Wait,
it.
I want to be clear on this, because I like what Mark wrote. I don't like what was presented to us in October. I do like what Mark wrote. So I think if we're gonna go back to council and say, we don't recommend the boilerplate language, we do recommend, if you want to go down this road, we do recommend the language that Mark wrote.
So see, I agree with that. My mindset was, because obviously it's on their mind. So my mindset was, if we agree, we don't want to adopt any law or ordinance or what have you, but if you're going to, it needs to be something like this or exactly like this, but we don't want to do it.
And I would disagree with you there, and that we don't throw in our opinion that we
Okay.
don't recommend that you adopt or don't adopt. I say we stay neutral on it to the point of we like this language, we don't like this language. And we have no recommendation whether they adopt it or don't adopt it, but if they do want to adopt it, here's the language that we recommend.
And I would proffer the fact that we just go with the fact that we don't think anything is necessary. It's already covered by state law. And if they want to come back to us and say, well, we want something better, then we can go with this. Okay? But what we're doing is we're just throwing another ruling in San Clemente only, okay, where it's already covered in state law. So just leave it like it is, and if they want, further action, we can throw this out.
What's the actual question presented to us by the council? To adopt or not adopt what was presented last month?
Mhm.
Well, I want to be sure.
We need to look at the,
It's 9A, that's what council's recommendation was, is the title of 9A, was to review the letter. That was their verbiage.
Review the letter of support. We just don't support it.
Yeah, I think they were asking, is this something that we should support? Yes or no?
Well, I say no.
That's
Yeah, I
it.
say no. And so it goes back to this,
So,
the original,
so let's not make a bigger thing than what it actually is.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? And
Scott, are you okay with that?
To answer the question, do we support the adoption of the ordinance as it was presented in the October 24th meeting? I agree that we don't support that language.
Good.
And I ended there.
Yep.
Okay.
To your point, Mike, that we don't need to go down any further road, I don't agree with that. I think that there is meat on this bone to adopt some sort of ordinance if it is presented to us from council. But the question that was presented to us from council was, do we support the letter that was presented to us on October 24th? And I agree that answer is no.
So we'll just simplify it. The Public Safety Committee does not support the
Mom's demand.
moms, yeah, the moms demand action related to gun storage. Okay, that's my motion.
Do we have to provide any reason why we don't?
Well, that's the question. That's what I was trying to.
I think it's just, should we adopt this or shouldn't we? That was the question.
Yeah, I guess my question is the optics of the Public Safety Committee recommending against something that you can make the argument increases safety.
It's true.
So,
But
to the optics of that, we don't support that ordinance as written and presented on October 24th because of ambiguous language that we feel is not concise and specific.
I think just as presented.
It's overly ambiguous.
Yeah, its ambiguity, whether intended or not, makes it more restrictive than state law. And is that where the city wants to be?
Yeah. I just say that we do not support it as presented.
Okay, that's your motion, right? Second, somewhere? Second, Gary, second, okay. Any more discussion? No?
You all
All in
vote
favor?
yes? No,
Natanya?
nothing.
Oh. All in favor?
Aye.
So that's 5-0. Back to the recommendation. Gotcha.
Good job.
All right, now, public safety, let's see, we got the annual work plan, reports and stuff, let's see, communication disaster preparedness update. I can give you that one, it's, been talking to the Laguna Beach disaster planner about sirens. We had a thing last meeting, I had a video of that. The disaster planner came back and suggested a few dates to actually go and see a live demonstration of the siren public address thing. And what I'm going to do now is to ask if there any interest in seeing that from this committee.
What days? Do you have a day in mind?
Well, I have a number of days, and I want to get the interest. see if folks are
Yeah,
interested in
definitely.
this.
Yeah.
Then I'll get you those dates.
Right.
And then we can see if we can schedule it. I'm trying to get the city manager to jump in on it also. But
Is there a time of day that's better for people on a day they're available? Does morning work better than afternoons? Because mornings work better for me.
he works, right?
Until January 31st, and then I can do anything.
And then you work,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
I think he's got a bit longer though.
a few days longer. Okay. Well, anyway, I'll run it out and see what, I'll run it through Danielle because I can't do it directly. I'll have her put it out. Otherwise,
What out? I'm sorry.
want to schedule this, let's see if we can come to a consensus on the scheduling to get a live demonstration of this Laguna Beach siren public address system, warning system for the community. Because
How would we, like, for this committee or for like the city at large?
well, it could be, no, actually for the committee and any staff people, because we're just working on a potential, is this a good answer to the problem? The problem is how do you, notify folks that there's a tsunami or there's evacuations or
I
whatever.
don't think that's what she's asking. So, do we need to go through you to schedule a field trip for us to go to Long Beach, or not Long Beach, Laguna Beach, to see how their system works? Can we do that amongst ourselves, or do we have to
I
go
think
through you?
Adam had described it like if you guys go 2 by 2,
Mm-hmm.
like you can go as a team of 2, but if you're all together, right, which is kind of crazy because if you're going out to field trip to do things out in the field, yeah.
I think of the Brown Act, okay?
Yeah.
An entire group can be at a barbecue together, okay? They just can't discuss city business or council business. I believe that. I mean, it's been
Yeah, I recently reviewed, you guys all got a manual
Yeah.
when you joined the committee, and it gives that example
so. I mean,
precisely.
we're just all going out there. We're not going to discuss
Yeah.
a thing until we come back. Okay, like, oh, that's really great or whatever. Just take your own observation, and then when we come back, we can discuss it.
Yeah, because it'd be unrealistic to ask them to present it. If we go 2, 2, and 1, they have to do it 3 times.
Right.
That's gonna.
Well,
Well, if
it might be something that, we can talk, I can ask Adam to talk to Andy about, just to get his thoughts. Maybe he asks legal, hey, if they're just going on a field trip, they're not gonna be discussing so much committee business as they're just going for this particular, we can find out, but it wouldn't be something that I don't think we would schedule, being that it's in a different city.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to say that we can't. The 5 of us couldn't be at somebody's Christmas party, okay?
Right.
And say, oh no, the
Now-
other guy's going to be there. I can't come.
I think where it can get tricky is this field trip that you're going to observe this program. You're going to bring that knowledge back, right?
Yes,
Correct.
yeah,
And incorporate that into the committee.
right.
Yeah, I actually think that we do have to 2, 2, and 1.
I think so.
Wait a minute.
But I mean, why don't we let Danielle
Yeah.
talk to the city manager,
let me-
talk to
Daniel,
legal.
can I?
We're spitballing off of a.
Yeah, when you're talking to them, I mean, we all drive up and down Pico, all right? And we could all be on Pico at the same time. And then if something comes up to the council regarding crowd traffic on Pico or something, well, we can't be stopped from discussing it.
Yeah, but this is planned.
All right.
Nick, can you just send me an email with the
Hold-
general information and I'll get an
Hold on.
answer
Yeah,
for you?
hold
It's
on.
not, it shouldn't be a big deal.
We're getting ahead of my question. From what I understand, to put something out to say, hey, what is the schedule on the thing, it's gotta come from staff. You can't come from me asking you guys directly because this is
We have subcommittees.
I think that's what the subcommittees kind of are for, from what I've heard.
But if we say, okay, we can, you know, you put out, can we, what's a good time for us to meet on this field trip? Staff's got to do that. The question.
I'll check.
We can go back and.
I'll ask.
Tell her what's ours. I mean, I could do it, but I don't want to stumble over this thing, you know?
Yeah, I've never
Yeah,
done
this is all-
anything quite
So we're gonna-
like this, so I'll just
Find out.
speak to Adam. So the whole group wants to go.
If we can get a time that will work together for us.
Okay, yeah, I'll ask.
Okay.
I gotta be out of here in 10 minutes.
Hey, let's get going. Okay, anyway. Homelessness and best management practices for public safety personnel project update. Anything on homelessness, guys? Okay. I think this, the question about RVs, what to do with them. I'm not sure if we're into that or not, but that's an interesting question to go for.
You're not sure what? I'm sorry.
Ms. Madrid
Yes.
suggested it's a public safety matter about having these people parked in the RVs. Short of saying, go to the state park and pay $15 a day, you know, they have 24-hour camping there. What else is there?
Yeah.
You know, it may be a thing that we need to look at. Okay,
Raised hand.
raised hand. Yes, sir.
This is not.
I'm Tom Street. Tom Street, a San Clemente resident, and homeless is an unusual section of the city code because the sheriff is under a court order from federal court not to enforce our anti-camping ordinance, and he's not under a federal court order to refuse to enforce any other ordinance. So anti-camping and anti-homelessness in general has to be carved out to a law enforcement organization other than the sheriff. It could be code compliance. It could be what happened to my park ranger. It could be something, but in essence, it's going to be something smaller than the sheriff and bigger than the building inspector. We got to figure out some kind of a unified system of doing that. The idea of forcing something like this into code compliance or into a park ranger operation and not as a standalone probably is not a good idea. I think a standalone operation would be a good idea. I don't know how it would be structured, but it's something we should certainly consider.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
I'd be interested to hear what our outreach, homeless outreach person here on the city, what their perspective is on the sleeping, how many, whatever, and all that.
Maybe we can get them to come to the January 23rd meeting.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
All right, I'd like to invite the homeless outreach representative to address us regarding the homeless outreach.
Sure.
How's
That'd
that?
be great.
Good job. Okay. Legislative review, nothing that we've come up with. Neighborhood watch,
I haven't talked to Ryan in about 3 or 4 weeks, but he continues to build on the block captains, and maybe I can get a little bit better report from him, and I'll bring it to the 23rd meeting.
good. Statistical information review, we're working on the FOC and the fire department's stats. We should have the ambulance company's stats in another week, next week, I believe. They committed to that, so then we can proceed on that in our subcommittee.
Okay.
Good.
Can we also invite a bulk representative for the January 23rd or the February meeting? It's not super time sensitive, just to talk about how they process their data, how they look at their response times, specifically how they treat cancellations. Because what as we filter and analyze that data, we're not getting exactly the same results that they are. They're close, but it's not exactly the same.
Right.
So I just have some questions about how they process their data, and it doesn't make sense.
They gotta get the rules, what the
Right.
rules are. Sure. How's that for inviting, we want to invite a representative of the ambulance company.
From the where?
Ambulance company.
From Falk.
Oh,
Did we wait till their performance measures are due, or?
we'll have to reach out to the city manager's office to get somebody from Falk, because that is managed by them, but I'll see if we can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to invite them to January or February, because January's going to be pretty busy.
Yeah, why don't we
We're
push
kind
it
of
to February?
overbooking January.
Yeah, why don't we push it to February?
Yeah. Let's see if we can target February. Human trafficking issue.
And we're, I'm sorry. I already talked to the chair, and we're going to invite somebody from the I-5 group who's very interested in human trafficking. They are based here in San Clemente, and we'll try to get a quick presentation from them on the 23rd. And we'll tell them that it has to be a quick presentation because we got all the other things. So.
Can Nick send us an email with that information?
And additionally, Mike and I finalized the updated human trafficking portion of the annual plan. Is that what's called, annual plan? And then with the purpose is to identify and address flashpoints, locations, and local sources of human trafficking activity to reduce or eliminate human trafficking in the city of San Clemente. The most prevalent examples of human trafficking are inveigled, coerced, and/or forced labor and/or sex work. The goals to efficiently coordinate with the OCSD Special Investigations Unit, the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force, and establish human trafficking NGOs to reduce and combat human trafficking in the city of San Clemente, and to educate local businesses and residents of the signs of and ills associated with human trafficking. And that's what we made officially on the annual.
Okay, you didn't make any changes, because I took all your.
What I sent you, that's verbatim what I just read.
Okay, because that is all packaged and loaded in for the council meeting on December 5th that Nick is going to present.
I just wanted them to know because they weren't privy to what I had sent to you.
Gotcha, sorry about that.
Mike did most of it.
Good job.
Yeah, that'll be the day. You guys are excellent right now.
Okay, moving right along. E-bike and traffic safety.
Nothing new.
Okay, technology review. There's nothing new there that I know of.
Hopefully there will be with radios.
Yeah.
Well, and that falls under the thing. So worst case scenario, if they don't allow us to do, all of us go to Laguna Beach, you and I on the technical thing, right? So I guess we'll, at the minimum, you and I can go.
Got it. Emergent matters is as they come up. Okay, now we'll get into police services.
I don't have anything further.
Did your thing, yeah. Okay, fire services. Thank you.
I'll be quick, so then I guess you go. Let's see, for Fire Authority, I ran a quick report just for the year to date, just because you guys, just for your knowledge. Transient fires, we've had 4 this year in 2023, so and there's no real specific spots. I know that's, I think you guys asked last time if there any report that we have of any kind of transient fires, things like that. So only 4 for the year, which is good. E-bike accidents, we did have 16 in 2023 up till now. Obviously, we had the big Tustin Hangar fire a couple weeks ago. We still have an incident management team assigned to that. Actually, probably called Wednesday or Thursday, working with Orange County Public Health and the UOC and the entire area, basically to do the cleanup and figure out how we're bringing down that building and all that. So it's been quite a process that we've been working through, but they're almost to the end now, which is good. It's been a pretty slow fire season around here, which is good. A couple small fires. You guys were probably all aware of the fire that was going for a little bit in Camp Pendleton, but never came into the impact area for San Clemente, which was a really good thing. So that's good. And I'm thinking that the fire season, they're saying maybe that last rain might have finished the fire season down here. So I think we're officially outside of fire season, but still being careful. And then our Firehawks that we ordered last year or a year and a half ago, I bet, should be arriving in January of 2024. So that will be very exciting when we get those. We'll take delivery of 2 of those and starting training and getting those things out here. So that was really good.
Great.
And the report.
2 quick questions. E-bike collisions up or down from last year?
Oh, you know what? I didn't run last year.
Don't worry about it.
To be honest, it seems pretty much about the same as last year. Yeah, because there's usually a couple few a month, so 16 for the year, pretty good. Yeah, so it does not seem to be up.
And then a question related to, we had a presentation about the ills related to that lithium-ion battery storage facility that's proposed at the end of
Oh, okay.
Currently, do any of the stations in San Clemente have the ability to fight a lithium-ion battery fire? I mean, is that it's my understanding that's like a weird kind of fire.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange fire. I mean, the whole fire service is trying to figure out exactly how to effectively do it. I just heard today that they may have found a special kind of foam that may work on them. But I mean, we'll definitely fight the fire. We do it up in the hills and stuff, and we can put it out and at least keep it from extending to other places. But
that was an issue up in Laguna Hills?
Yeah, we had a fire in Laguna Hills that burned for, I mean, it just kept lighting off like for weeks. It's hard to completely put that stuff out. So we can definitely fight the fire and keep it from extending. But as far as full extinguishment and things like that, that's a whole process that they're still trying to work through the science on, to be honest.
Thank you.
Meltdown, yeah.
I didn't know that was...
Yeah, if more comes out about that, I'll try and get better information for you because we're all learning about it right now.
Yeah, we had a presentation, you were here, regarding a proposed battery plant at the end of Pico.
Saw that in the newspaper.
Yeah, and the concern of the resident was the fire, and then if it does light up, then the noxious fumes could force evacuations and things like that. So
yeah, the stuff that comes off of those fires is not good. So
public safety matters.
That's why. More information's coming. As I get more, I'll definitely send it to you guys too, because it's interesting.
Great.
Maybe we can build a preschool on that property.
Rob, do you have anything?
I'll just give you a quick, our lifeguard operations, again, opens up at 8 a.m. Now we're closing at 5 p.m. as of yesterday. Since our last meeting, we had 208,000 beach visitors, 4 swimmers rescued that were in distress, no drownings, 240 preventative actions, 1,065 public education contacts, 13 medical incidents, 462 law enforcement contacts, and 1 missing person reunited that was not water related. Water temperatures ranging from 60 to 68 since the last meeting, air temperature 55 to 77. Our current staffing levels are 4 lifeguards a day now, which is a drastic drop. Let's see here, encampments since the last meeting, we've only had 2, both at T Street. We have a surf contest, WSA, at T Street this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. And then we have SSA coming up on December 9th on the north side of the pier. The base of the pier restrooms are still under construction. Trash enclosure behind headquarters is still waiting on materials. And I think I gave you guys the sand update. And one thing I'm working on is on top of our Zero Tower, there's a little house on top that holds speakers. We have speakers that are underneath the pier that direct out south inside, south outside, and on the north side as well. But the upper ones are for a bigger broadcast, and they don't work effectively. I'm working with a contractor where we will be able to reach a mile in each direction. So that would help when like if you're saying how do you alert people for tsunami or lightning or whatever that case may be to evacuate the beach.
Yeah.
So for a small cost, we can effectively potentially do that in the near future. And that's it, unless anyone has any questions.
Good. Thank you, guys. Good job. I think we got enough work to do here. We got to coordinate together, and we got to do a field project with the park rangers. Get their program together, and maybe a thing including the beach. So got lots of stuff to look forward to. So all I have is happy holidays.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Same to everybody.
Committee members?
It's a whole month off.
Yeah. Off. Anything for the committee members?
I got a 6 o'clock meeting
All right,
at the city center, so.
You better, city staff.
No speeding.
Anything for the staff?
Just the council December 5th. Other than that, just trying to wrap things up. So we're doing good.
December 5th, I'm going to be hopefully pushing the city council people, urging them to hire a disaster planner, which is another one of those essential things. If anybody'd like to join me, I'd like to do that. I don't know on the agenda where we are on that, and so it depends on.
Committees, I think it might be two, they might do it all at once or kind of break it up, because in addition, there was in the last meeting that you guys wanted direction from council on how to proceed on e-bikes. So that might also come up. So I don't know how they'll kind of separate it, or if there'll be time for all of that. For certain, the work plan will end the position.
Right.
The e-bike, I don't know.
But the idea is when on the agenda? Is it 11 o'clock at night, or is it 6 o'clock?
What time's the meeting?
It depends where
Six,
things
or
get
six.
moved. I think we'll be early for the committee information. Now, the position might be further down. I'll look and see where we're at. Things
And
get pushed.
Let us know what is going on, because, if we can be unified up there, and we can.
The agenda should be out on Thursday, so you'll be able to see where you're at.
That doesn't mean that's where we'll actually.
Right. They have the prerogative of moving it around, so.
But you're going to be here for the whole meeting, correct? For that meeting?
I'm going to try.
Yeah. I'm going to ask, because I have, we discussed, I have a previous engagement, but if it's over, I can text you, and if they still haven't discussed that.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Because I would like to be here for that, but
And then if it's over, I can let you know it's.
I don't want
it's
to
already
bail
done.
on my daughter.
No. Absolutely. Anything for the cause? Seeing that, I think we'll adjourn to the next scheduled meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.
Rover.
All right. I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas and a happy, safe New Year.
But our next meeting will be the January 23rd at 3 p.m. City Hall Chambers.